What if there was a piece of equipment that when you put it on, you became better at football? Well, these goggles claim to do just that.
So in this package here, I have the goggles that apparently will make me play better at football. So let's get them unboxed.
So in this video, I'm going to be testing out some of the strangest football training equipment because I want to find out if they actually work. But first up, let's get these goggles unboxed because they have some pretty big claims.
They're called the swivel vision goggles and apparently they make you better at football. So let's see. They look like this, pretty unassuming goggles, interesting design. Let me explain how they make you better at football. These goggles are made for goalkeepers and strikers. They offer quicker reaction speed and hand-eye coordination for goalkeepers, greater visual awareness for strikers to see opportunities and threats, enhanced foot-eye coordination and accuracy. So there's a lot of benefits if these things actually work.
These goggles are also used by many pro players, especially goalkeepers, including Manuel Neuer, so that's got to count for something.
By the way, it's worth mentioning, this video is not sponsored, so I'm going to give an honest review of these. If they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. But let's take them to the pitch and test them out.
So I'll be doing different tests with these goggles to see how much they improve my game, including shooting and the big one, in goal. But first up, I need to get used to wearing them.
Right, so it doesn't actually look too bad. It's basically just cutting off my peripheral vision, so I can't see anything over here. I can just see straight down the line.
To give you an example of what it's like to wear these, this is what it looks like normally. And this is what it feels like with the goggles on. A lot more zoomed in and focused on the ball.
It does feel like I'm so focused on the football. It's really weird. I feel like I'm in a commercial, one of those Nike POV commercials. It's really weird. I've got these warmed up. Let's get into the test and see if they actually work. If I'm honest, I'm a little bit skeptical.
So before we get into the first test with these goggles, let's have a play around with a few more of the strangest football products out there.
So the first product that I'm going to test out is called the Solo Trainer, and I'm on my own, so let's test it.
So this cost £30, and if I'm honest, I expected it to be pretty bad, but I was pleasantly surprised. It's definitely a lot better than one of those balls that straps to your waist because you can just strike the ball a lot cleaner on this. The only problem is you can't really see how good your technique is as the ball only goes so far. So for me, I'm going to rate this a 6 out of 10. So this next strange football product is a pair of socks that claim to prevent injuries. Metatarsal injuries are one of the most common in football. These socks have a protective pad over the top of your foot to reduce the impact on that area. So I did a stamp test to see if they actually work.
So these socks definitely do reduce the pain of getting stamped on, but they do feel a little bit bulky, so it might reduce that barefoot feel when dribbling. But overall, I think they would prevent injuries, so I'll give these a 7 out of 10.
Now let's go back to the goggles for our first test.
Right, first up we've got the dribble test. I'm going to dribble around these cones and we're going to time it with and without the goggles and see which one is better. Let's go. 3, 1, go!
First up, no goggles, and we got 13.2 seconds. Now let's see what we can get with the goggles on.
2, 1, go!
When I was dribbling with the goggles on, it did feel like I was going a lot slower and it was quite disorientating. But to my surprise, I was actually 0.1 seconds quicker.
Mate, that is so weird. I feel like a little bit dizzy. I'm not sure if it helped or not. I did feel very focused on the ball.
So the goggles did make me very slightly quicker, but that's not enough to prove they work. So next up, I want to try a freestyle test. Because these goggles claim to give you extra focus and improved foot-eye coordination, I'm expecting them to improve my ability to do skills. To test this, I'll see how many attempts it takes me to land one of my best tricks with the goggles on and also without them. In just 3 attempts without the goggles, I was able to do it. Then I put the goggles on to see if they can help me out. But it wasn't until the 5th attempt I was able to stick the landing. So no improvement with the skills test, but before we test them out for shooting and in goal, let's take a look at some more strange products.
Right, so I'm not going to lie, this next product looks pretty interesting. I'm not even sure if this thing is legal to wear in a game. This thing is mental. Right, so let me take it to the pitch, and if you haven't already guessed, I'll explain to you exactly what it is, and we'll see how well it works.
So this is a protection vest for goalkeepers. It has an insane amount of padding and should make diving and getting hit less painful. First up, I did some dives without the vest on.
Okay, definitely painful.
Then I put it on and did some more dives.
Yeah, so it's definitely more comfortable diving with this. I'm not sure how legal it is to wear this much padding in a game, but if it is, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Next up we have the ladders. Are these actually good? And I would say yes. They're great for improving foot speed. I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10, just because you can do similar drills without the ladder, so it's useful but not essential.
Right, so this next product seems to have taken the football world by storm. Everyone seems to have a pair, all the pros are using them, but do they actually work? It's grip socks.
Now these socks have loads of little grips on the bottom to keep your foot more stable in the boot. Loads of pros use these socks, so I tested them out on the pitch to see if they actually work. And I've got to be honest, they do what they say. So for that reason, I'll give them an 8 out of 10. Now let's put the goggles back on and get to the shooting test. Now, to see if these goggles improve my accuracy, like they claim, I've got a test. So I'll have 25 shots with and without the goggles on, aiming at this target, and then I'll create a heat map of where all the shots went to see which was more accurate. First up, 25 shots with no goggles. And this was the heat map of my shots. As you can see, not great. I then put the goggles on and got off to a good start. When taking shots with these goggles, you can't focus on anything apart from kicking the ball, which can be a little bit disorientating, but it makes sure you get a good connection. And this is the heat map with the goggles on. So as you can see, they're fairly similar, but overall I would say the goggles did slightly better. Got a lot more shots around the target.
I don't know if these work or not, I'm not sure yet. We need more tests to figure it out. Next up, control test. I think these might help with a control test because you're so tunnel vision on the ball as it's in the air. It might help me focus a bit more. So let's go. First up, no goggles. Let's put them on.
So with the control test, it was basically the same with and without the goggles on, so no difference there. But I then used the goggles for defending, and it actually did help. I seemed a lot better at defending one-on-ones when wearing the goggles. It seemed to help me track the ball better, which is a good sign for the goggles. But the final test I want to do, and the main one, is goalkeeping, because most of the pros that use these goggles are keepers, so I'm interested to see how they can improve that. But first, there's a few more weird products I want to test out.
Right, so I'm inside to test out this next product. It's a really popular one, but do they actually work? It's the foam roller.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Foam rollers are super popular, and that's for good reason. They're great for warm-ups and warm-downs to help prevent injury. 8 out of 10.
Right, this next product is a football in here, and it's made for goalkeepers. Let's unbox it. Right, wow, it's a 1 kilogram football.
Being twice as heavy as a normal football, the 1 kilogram ball is faster and heavier, offering more of a challenge for goalkeepers.
Right, so the 1 kilogram ball, it's decent, but realistically, you might as well just use a normal football. 5 out of 10.
Now, the final product before we put the goggles back on is an altitude mask. They look pretty cool, they're expensive, but are they worth buying?
Honestly, these things are quite expensive, so that's going to knock a bit off its score. It definitely makes exercise harder and more difficult, so when you take it off, you can breathe so much better, which, you know, could help. But equally, you might as well just do stuff without it, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
So I've put the goggles back on, and now it's time for the final and most important test, goalkeeping. The goggles claim to give you better reactions and hand-eye coordination, and a lot of pro goalies use them, so let's see if they make any difference. First up, I did a few catches with them, and I've got to admit, they were feeling pretty good.
Whoa! Wow, mate, I do not mind this for a goalkeeper. These are decent, mate, decent.
So I felt pretty good so far, but the next test, I would face 25 shots with and without the goggles on.
Right, first off, 25 shots without the goggles on. Let's see how many I save. Now shots with the goggles on. It's scary, man, honestly. Can't see anything. I'm so focused on you right now. Mate, I thought I was going to dive into the post then. I can't see the post, I think I'm going to jump into it.
So overall, I'd say I did slightly better with the goggles. They definitely gave you a bit more focus on the ball. I'm not really sure if I want to conclusively say they work, but they definitely made the biggest difference when used in goal. But the fact that people like Neuer and pro keepers are using them would suggest they do offer some value, and used correctly could potentially improve your game, especially for keepers.